They told me my grandfather left me nothing. At his funeral, they whispered behind my back, laughing that I would walk away empty-handed. But late one evening, as the sun bled across the fields, I found something no one else could see. Buried beneath the old plow, hidden in the dirt and shadows, was a rusted key. A key that led me to a secret so heavy, so heartbreaking, it stole my sleep and changed everything I thought I knew about him. This isn't a story about gold or riches. It's about a truth my grandfather carried to his grave, and why he chose me, and only me, to uncover it. The day my grandfather was buried, the world felt heavier than the coffin we lowered into the earth. People whispered that he had nothing left to his name, nothing to give me, nothing to remember him by. I stood by the grave as neighbors shook their heads and muttered that the old man had lived too long, worked too hard, and died with nothing to show for it. Their words stung, not because of the inheritance they said I would never see, but because I knew my grandfather better than they did. He was a man of silence, of quiet strength, of secrets he never revealed to anyone. And in that silence, I sensed there was something more, something hidden that even the grave couldn't swallow. After the funeral, my relatives gathered inside. The old farmhouse, a place worn by decades of storms and sun. The lawyer read the will aloud, his voice cold and sharp as a blade. My cousins leaned forward, hungry for land or money, and my aunts clutched each other, hoping for jewelry or heirlooms. When the lawyer finally turned to me, his eyes barely flicked over the paper. "To him, nothing," he said. The room grew quiet, then erupted in murmurs. Some smirked, others looked at me with pity, but all I felt was fire burning in my chest. Nothing? After all the years I spent beside him in the fields, after all the nights I sat at his bedside when his breath rattled with age, after all the stories he whispered when no one else was around, nothing? I didn't argue. I didn't cry in front of them. I simply walked out of that house, my boots crunching on the dirt road, my fists clenched so tight, my nails cut into my palms. My grandfather wasn't a man of words. He was a man of actions, and I refused to believe he had left me nothing. Days passed, and grief became a shadow that followed me everywhere. I wandered the farm alone, hearing echoes of his voice in the wind, feeling his presence in the worn wooden handles of the tools, in the scent of hay that lingered in the barn. Every corner of that land held a memory, and every memory whispered the same question. Why would he leave me with nothing? One evening, I found myself standing in the field where the old plow sat, rust creeping over its frame, half buried in the soil. My grandfather had told me once that the plow was older than him, that it had broken ground when the family first came to this land. As the sun bled into the horizon, painting the sky with fire, I walked toward it, drawn by something I couldn't explain. My fingers brushed against the iron, cold and rough. And then, something caught my eye. Something that didn't belong. Beneath the plow, tucked between the soil and the shadow, was a glint. I knelt down, heart hammering in my chest, and dug into the dirt with trembling hands. The earth gave way, and there it was. A small, rusted key, wrapped in an oil-stained cloth. My breath caught in my throat. My grandfather had hidden it here, of all places, under the plow, the tool that had broken the ground, fed our family, and carried our history. Held the key in my hand, my pulse racing. What could it open? Why had he hidden it here? And why leave it for me to find when everyone else believed there was nothing left? That night, I couldn't sleep. I turned the key over in my hands again and again, staring at it under the dim light of the lantern. Its teeth were sharp, its weight heavy with promise. Somewhere a lock was waiting. Somewhere a secret my grandfather had guarded all his life was waiting to be revealed. The thought sent shivers down my spine. I searched the farmhouse from corner to corner, drawers, cabinets, closets, all empty, nothing that fit. I scoured the barn, the tool shed, even the cellar. Nothing. Each time I failed, the suspense only grew heavier, pressing on my chest like a stone. What if it was nothing? What if it was just an old key, a trick of a dying man? But deep down, I knew better. My grandfather wasn't cruel. He wasn't careless. He was deliberate in everything. He did. By the third night, exhaustion gnawed at me, but I couldn't stop. I returned to the plow at dawn, the key clutched in my fist, and stared across the land. Somewhere, he was leading me. Somewhere, his voice whispered through the earth and the wind. And as I stood there, I remembered his words from long ago, spoken when I was just a boy. The soil hides more than crops. Sometimes it hides truths men aren't ready to see. The memory struck me like lightning. My legs moved before my mind caught up, carrying me across the field toward the old shed that leaned against the back fence. Its door sagged on broken hinges, its walls lined with dust and shadows. I stepped inside, my eyes scanning the darkness. And there, in the corner beneath a pile of rotting boards, I saw it, a steel box, scratched and dented, its lock still, intact. My hands shook as I crouched down, the key burning in my palm. I slid it into the lock, breath caught in my throat. It fit. Slowly, I turned it, the sound of metal grinding against metal echoing in the silence. With a final click, the lock yielded. My heart thundered in my chest. I gripped the lid, ready to lift it, ready to see what my grandfather had hidden from the world, ready to uncover the truth he had left only for me. And in that moment, as the box creaked open, I realized the people were wrong. My grandfather hadn't left me nothing. He had left me everything. Only it was a secret that would change my life forever. The lid of the steel box groaned as I pried it open, dust rising like smoke into the stale air. My hands trembled, my heart drumming so loud I could hear it echo against the shed's wooden walls. Inside lay a bundle wrapped in worn leather, tied with a strip of faded cloth that looked as old as the plow itself. For a long moment I couldn't move. The weight of years pressed on me, the weight of my grandfather's silence, the weight of all the whispers that had said he left me nothing. With a breath I didn't know I was holding, I untied the cloth. The leather unrolled, revealing what looked like stacks of brittle yellowed papers, and beneath them, a small wooden box no larger than my hand. I lifted the papers first, my fingers brushing over the faded ink. They weren't ordinary notes, they were letters, dozens of them, written in my grandfather's rough handwriting. Some were addressed to me, others carried names I didn't recognize. My throat tightened. My grandfather had never been a man of words, yet here was proof that he had been writing for years, maybe decades. I picked one envelope with my name scrawled across it and unfolded the fragile page inside. His words leapt off the paper, heavy and trembling. If you are reading this, it means I am gone, and you found the key I left for you. Do not trust what others told you. What I kept hidden was never meant for their hands. It was always meant for yours. Inside this box is not wealth as the world measures it, but something far greater. It carries truth. And with truth comes weight. Be ready, because once you know, you cannot turn away. My chest tightened as I clutched the letter, tears stinging my eyes. My grandfather had spoken to me from beyond the grave, his voice etched into every stroke of ink. I set the letter aside and reached for the smaller wooden box. Its surface was carved with symbols I didn't understand. Strange marks, almost like maps, almost like prayers. The wood was smooth with age, darkened by the touch of many hands. My fingers trembled as I lifted its lid. Inside lay a single object, a pocket watch. Its silver case was tarnished, its glass cracked, but when I held it up, The hands ticked steadily, as if time itself had been preserved. Etched on the back were initials, J.M., my grandfather's name, Joseph Miller. But beneath the watch was something else, folded tight, another letter, sealed with wax. My breath caught as I broke the seal and unfolded it. This watch has passed through our family for generations. It was not bought with money, but with sacrifice. It once belonged to your great-grandfather, and before him, to his father. Inside, it is more than time. It holds our story, a story others wanted to bury. That is why I hid it. This land, this farm, this soil, none of it came free. And the truth of how it came to us is locked inside this watch. Find the hidden compartment, and you will see. My hands shook as I turned the watch over, searching. For minutes I pressed and twisted until suddenly, with a faint click, the back popped open. Tucked inside was a strip of paper, brittle with age. I carefully pulled it free, unfolding it with trembling fingers. It was a deed, a land deed, written in ink so faded it was nearly unreadable. My eyes scanned the words, my breath caught on every line. The farm wasn't bought, it was given. No, not given. Granted. My great-grandfather had saved a man's life, and in return, the man had left him this land. But scrawled at the bottom was something else, words that twisted my stomach into knots. Promise kept in blood. Return if ever called. The letters swam before my eyes. What did it mean? Promise kept in blood? Return if ever called? My grandfather had hidden this because it wasn't just a family heirloom. It was a burden, a bond that reached back generations. My head spun with questions. Who was the man my great-grandfather had saved? What kind of promise had tied our family to him in blood? And why did my grandfather make sure only I would find it? I shoved the papers back into the box, my breath ragged, fear and awe mingling in my chest. The watch ticked in my palm, steady and relentless, as if reminding me that time was moving whether I wanted it to or not. I could feel it, the weight of generations pressing down on me, secrets buried deeper than the soil we had plowed for decades. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the letters spread out before me, lantern light flickering across the ink. I read every word my grandfather had written. He spoke of debts unpaid, of shadows that followed our family, of men who might one day come asking for what was hidden. He wrote of choices he made to protect me, choices that cost him friends, respect, and perhaps even love. And he warned me, if the past finds you, do not run. Face it, for you are stronger than I ever was. That is why this secret belongs to you. Tears blurred my vision as I pressed the papers to my chest. All my life, I thought I knew him. All my life, I thought he was just a farmer, just a quiet old man who rose with the dawn and worked until his hands bled. But here was proof of another life, a hidden life, one bound by promises and secrets that stretched far beyond our farm. I leaned back, staring into the darkness beyond the window. My relatives had laughed when they said he left me nothing. They smirked when they thought I was empty-handed. But now I knew they were wrong. He had left me everything that mattered. Not gold, not land, not jewels. He had left me the truth. And truth was more terrifying, more powerful than any treasure. As I sat there, the watch ticking softly on the table, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been set in motion the moment I found the key. That by opening the box, by uncovering these letters, I had awakened a past that would no longer stay buried. The house was silent, the farm asleep, but I felt it, the stirring of something beyond the walls, beyond the fields. As though the promise written in blood was no longer a memory, but a shadow creeping closer, demanding to be honored. And in that silence, with my grandfather's words echoing in my mind, I realized I had stepped into a story far greater than myself. A story of sacrifice, of secrets, of debts that refused to die. The watch ticked on, steady, relentless, and I knew the truth my grandfather left me was only the beginning. The watch ticked through the night, its steady rhythm echoing like a heartbeat against the silence of the farmhouse. I couldn't look away from it, couldn't ignore the weight of the letters spread across the table. Every word my grandfather had written carved deeper into my soul, and with each passing second I felt the burden settle heavier on my shoulders. The truth wasn't just history, it was a warning. At dawn, I walked out into the fields, the watch clutched in my palm, the key heavy in my pocket. The land stretched out before me, golden with morning light, and for the first time I didn't see crops or fences or boundaries. I saw generations. I saw sweat, blood, and sacrifices buried in the soil. My grandfather's hands had shaped this land. His silence had protected it, and now his truth demanded that I carry it forward. I thought of my relatives, the ones who had smirked and whispered that I was left with nothing. They would never understand this weight. To them, value was counted in coins, in property, in things they could spend or sell. But my grandfather had trusted me with something far greater. He had trusted me with the story, with the promise, with the blood that bound us to the past. The letters said there might come a day when the descendants of the man my great-grandfather saved would return to claim what was theirs. That day had not yet come, but I felt it like a storm on the horizon. Whether tomorrow or years from now, the reckoning would arrive, and when it did, it would not be the land or the watch that mattered. It would be the courage to face it. Pressed the watch to my chest, closing my eyes. For a moment, I could almost hear my grandfather's voice, steady and calm. I left them nothing they could take from you. I left you everything they could never touch. Tears blurred my vision as I sank to my knees in the field. He hadn't abandoned me. He hadn't forgotten me. He had chosen me. Out of everyone, he had seen me as the one strong enough to hold. The truth. The one he could trust with the legacy no one else could bear. The soil beneath my hands was warm, alive, pulsing with history. I realized then that inheritance wasn't measured in money or things. It was measured in love, in trust, in the weight of secrets only meant for those strong enough to carry them. My grandfather had left me nothing the world could see, yet he had given me everything that truly mattered. I rose slowly, the watch ticking in my hand, the letters pressed against my chest. The sun climbed higher, burning away the shadows, and I knew my life would never be the same. The safe had not given me riches. It had given me truth, and truth was the kind of inheritance that could never be stolen, never be sold, never be forgotten. As I walked back toward the farmhouse, I felt no bitterness, no emptiness, only strength. They had told me Grandpa left me nothing, but under the plow, in the rusted key, in the hidden box, I had found more than I ever imagined. I had found him, and that was everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support keeps these powerful stories alive. Make sure to subscribe and follow for more unforgettable tales every week. Thank you for being here, and thank you for keeping these legacies alive.